بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Respected brothers and sisters, all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us the opportunity to come to His house to pray salah. We ask Allah to make this day as a source of khair for us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all types of evil. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. As we conclude the last portion of this statement of Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, which he had mentioned for the preparation for the last day when a person will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, things that will be beneficial and things that will be harmful. So we were mentioning three things which are harmful for the success of this human being. Number one, we mentioned fudulul kalam, excessive talking. Number two, fudulul ta'am, excessive eating. Number three, fudulul manam, excessive sleeping. Sleep is a order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah Azza wa Jal has put this as a necessity of this human being. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made such a system that Allah has kept the days for working and the nights for sleeping and doing ibadah. And night brings a different comfort in the life of this human being, and the day opens up different barakah in the life of this human being. If a person continues with the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then not only he has a healthy life in this world, but his akhirah gets better. Because excessive sleeping develops many of not physical illnesses, but also spiritual illnesses. And from the physical aspects of it, we have probably read, heard, and talked about. But from the spiritual aspects of it, Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah writes in Madarij that excessive sleeping, they are developing three bad qualities in your life. Number one is qaswatul qalb. Your heart becomes hard. You're no longer able to understand the ahkam of Allah and implement the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That a person, he is not able to understand the ability of understanding, the ability of doing good deeds, the ability of worrying about himself decreases. The second thing he mentions is al-kasl, laziness, that develops in the life of this human being due to excessive sleeping. A person becomes lazy. That's why on a weekend, when we oversleep and our sleep cycle extends versus the time of our weekdays, then we see that throughout the entire day, a person is yawning again and again. And it's like, I'm tired. How come I'm tired? I went to sleep for 8, 10 hours, 12 hours, and I'm still tired. That's not tiredness, that's laziness. That has developed in the life, in the body of this human being due to excessive sleep. So the first thing is qaswatul qalb, and number two is kasl. And the Prophet ﷺ, he used to ask Allah Azza wa Jal's protection. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-ajzi wal kasl. That, oh Allah, I seek your protection against incapability and laziness. And what is laziness? Laziness is not understanding your responsibility and doing what you're supposed to be doing. You have been given a task to continue, and now you're delaying it. For example, time for salah has come, now you delay. So this delaying is due to laziness, and the laziness is developed due to a person's excessive of sleep. So a person needs to encounter this problem, and he has to tackle it right from the beginning. And this is why, if you see in the teachings, as Fudayl ibn Ayaz rahimahullah mentions, that if you see in the teachings of the pious, that you will see a very less amount of time they would spend in sleep. And sleep is something that an individual is able to control. You know, from the medical perspective, they require for a person to have 6 to 8 hours of sleep to be able to have, mentally and physically having the proper strength. But even a person, he has the ability to decrease that. And there are people in the past that who have continued to sleep only for 2 to 3 hours in the entire 24 hours day, and they were able to do more. And there are many stories. Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda has mentioned qimatu zaman عند العلماء, the value of time according to scholars. And in that book, he has mentioned the stories of great scholars who have brought their ability to sleep very less, and they were able to do much more. And you're bringing the amount of sleep less, not to do things which are against the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person says, today I'm going to stay awake the entire night. Not to do ibadah, but to spend the entire night watching movie or chatting over the internet. So, spending our time wisely while we take away from, decrease our sleep in such a way that is not harming our body, this is one of the responsibility that is there for a believer. So, as I mentioned, 3 things Ibn al-Qayyim mentions that develops in the life of this human being due to excessive sleep. Number 1 is that qaswatul qalb, heart becomes hardened. And number 2, kasl, laziness develops. And number 3, a person does not have the heart to attach to the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever he stands up to do something that is pleasing Allah, suddenly he starts feeling this big burden, like he wants to get out. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said that a believer, his example in the masjid is like the fish in the water. You have fish in water, comfortable, very nice. And his example outside the masjid, it's like a fish out of the water. And a munafiq, hypocrite, his example in the masjid is fish out of the water. And his example outside the masjid is like fish in the water. So a person needs to. So the third thing that develops, a person doesn't like to do. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentions about the munafiqeen. That وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ قَامُوا كُسَالَى يُرَاءُونَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. That when they stand up for prayers, they're standing up in a very lazy manner. They're not showing their full attention, their motivation, their enthusiasm in the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that develops when a person starts to manage his sleep and he dedicates a lot of time towards the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he becomes active. This is why it has been mentioned about the benefit, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make dua, that, oh Allah, bring barakah in my ummah in the early part of the day. So the early part of the day, this is where the barakah has been kept for the ummah. And if that early part of the day is spent in doing things which is bringing laziness in the life of this individual, then that defeats the purpose. Allama Damiri rahimahullah, he is a zoologist, and he has compiled a book called Hayat al-Haywan. He was also a muhaddith, a great scholar of hadith. Allama Damiri mentions in Hayat al-Haywan that there was a person who came to a scholar and asked that why did Allah create a pig? Because it has no benefit. It's najis al-ayn. It gives, if it goes into the body of human being, the whole body becomes filthy. You're not allowed to eat. You're not allowed to take any type of benefit. So this scholar replied to him that there is a quality that you can learn from this pig. And that is that it wakes up early in the morning to look for and goes and fetches for his bread. So this is what are the qualities that a person, Allah Azza wa Jal has not made anything in this world that is useless. Nothing has been created without a purpose. So everything has a purpose behind. Whether a person sees that purpose or not, he sees the hikmah or not, that is the deficiency of this human being. But in the creation of Allah, there are no flaws. So we have to develop these qualities inside us. When we become responsible of our duty towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah makes that path towards the day of judgment easy for us. We ask Allah to grant us the understanding and the ability to practice. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.